Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the Spiritual Practice Series hosted by Sanctuary of Earth and the Richmond, Central Virginia Ions Community Group. Tonight, I'm really excited to welcome to us Stephanie Whitehead, writer, speaker, Reiki master, certified in Animal Reiki and specializing in animal massage and intuitive guide. She's going to be talking about signs and synchronicities, recognizing them and using them to help you in your life. We would very much appreciate those who are listening either live now or in the video version to please consider making a donation to support this program. You can donate at sanctuaryoferarth.org/donate. But before I introduce Stephanie to you, I want to just tell you a little bit about our organization. And by the way, I'm Susanna Wupong Calvert, one of the founders of the Sanctuary of Earth. The purpose of this series is to bridge the theoretical, empirical, and philosophical with people's lived experiences on topics of spirituality and consciousness. And we want to offer a range of options to promote individualization of our unique interface with the divine. It's the perfect partnership with IONS, Richmond Ions Community Group, which focuses on the science of spirituality. And this series provides a complementary counterpoint by focusing on practice. And we meet generally the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. A little bit about the Sanctuary of Earth. Our mission is to actualize the human spiritual potential on Earth and for Earth by providing the bridge between the cognitive and empirical to the lived, embodied, grounded, and practical. And so, in addition to this speaker series, we will also be creating an online interactive learning platform. And also focusing on the science of spirituality eventually. But I do want to tell you that very soon we are going to be offering classes on intuition development. So I hope you will consider joining us for that community pilot. And I'd be happy to talk a little bit more about that if there's time at the end of this session. I'm going to let Stephanie start sharing as I introduce her to you. She is going to be talking about signs and synchronicities, as I mentioned. And she is a follower of earth-centered spirituality and the lessons we can learn from nature. As I mentioned, she's a Reiki master practitioner and teacher certified in Animal Reiki and specializing in animal massage. She's an intuitive tarot reader and tasseomancer, a tea leaf reader. I'll have to get a tea leaf reading from you, Steph. Yeah. And has been studying signs and synchronicities in her life and in the lives of others for several years. She's a writer of fiction and nonfiction, as well as teaching writing classes on breaking writer's block and journaling. She's a singer, a ritual leader, and has recently become a licensed officiant in Virginia. And I know her personally from our church. We go to the first UU together, and she does a beautiful job leading the Dogwood Spirit group. And so I welcome those from first UU here with us tonight. So Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so looking forward to hearing your words of wisdom.
Thank you. I hope y'all will benefit from it. I hope that it'll open you at least to the possibilities of how signs and synchronicities in your life can really help you along on your spiritual journey and help you just gain some insight and self-awareness into yourself as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If I do this right, let's see. Hang on. I think I did it. Can everybody see?
Yes, I can see.
Good. Okay, good. And like I said, we're talking about signs and synchronicities and what kind of meaning they can have for your life. One of the things I've found in my own life with signs and synchronicities is that it's amazing how often they show up in our lives. And just last week, a very interesting synchronicity happened to me. Susanna called me and let me know that the talk was postponed. And all week I had been feeling something just is not clicking with this presentation. I'm not getting it. I don't know what's wrong. And so in a wild panic, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. And I get the call that it's going to be postponed. And the relief that you feel, and that's just a type of synchronicity that can happen when something is going on in your life that is either stressing you out or really wants a decision made about. It's amazing how those synchronicities and signs can pop up. And Susanna, thank you for being part of my synchronicity for this. It was very relieving, and it actually led me down a little bit different path than I had originally had. And it was my talk I felt was very dry and very it was too long and too scientific. I tend to be a little bit of a science nerd, so I had to pull that back and really tap into my spirituality a little bit more. Thank you. So welcome, everybody. I appreciate you listening to this. What we're going to do first is breathe. We're going to take a little bit of time to do a meditation just to get ourselves grounded and have our hearts open and our spirits open to what we might find, either from spirit or your higher power, or the universe, or even your own intuition. Just kind of sit back, put your feet on the floor if you can. I cannot. And just take a deep breath. Let yourself sit down into the seat. Just kind of relax back and get comfortable. You can close your eyes if you'd like. Take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. Feel your posture. How are you sitting in the chair? How is the chair molding itself to your body? Do you feel anything? Do you hear anything? Just let that all kind of wash over you and go by you as you center yourself into your own thoughts. Listen to your breath as you breathe in and breathe out. Now direct your attention to your feet. Notice how the soles are touching the ground or the floor. Make a connection with this feeling. As you breathe in deeply, let your breath go all the way down to your feet and then let it go. Take one more deep breath all the way down. Feel it swirling into your chest, down through your body. Breathe out and let it flow out your feet. Visualize the soles of your feet as two wonderful red circles form under each one, connecting your feet with the floor, and observe how the bright red ruby light kind of flows around these circles. Notice the sensations that are there. Do you feel warmth? Are your feet tingling? Or is there a sensation of coolness? Now take a deep breath and imagine on your exhalation, you're forming roots that are pushing further down into the earth beneath you from these red circles. They branch out. Take another deep breath and let that breath fill all the way down through your roots. And notice how, as you keep breathing, the roots carry on growing. They're healthy, they're strong, they're penetrating down. They pierce through the ground, the water beneath it, the crystals in the earth, traveling further down through the rich and vital nutrients that the earth has to offer you. When you breathe in, you'll feel those nutrients filling you, letting their energies support you. When you breathe out, your roots will grow stronger and thicker, untangled and powerful. Now you'll let them keep traveling down as you breathe until they penetrate the core of the earth. And as they do, you'll notice that they're bound there. This is your center. The red light from the core swirls around the roots and begins to travel up through all of the layers, making your roots glow all the way up to the soles of your feet. And notice how the sensation might begin to change at your feet. Feel the warmth of this nurturing red light completely enfolding your roots and your feet, letting you know that this is your point of connection with the earth. Stay with this feeling for a while. Breathe in, breathe out, and just sit with this connection. Enjoy being connected with everything. You're safe. There's nothing that can break this connection, and there's nothing that can move you. There's an entire planet right under your feet, supporting you. Now expand your awareness and scan your body for any tension or pain. Visualize any feelings that you have as clouds and smoke. If it's something you don't want, feel it flow out of your breath as you breathe. Let the pain diminish in little pieces and wisps of smoke as you blow out the breath. When you breathe in clean air, let it purify your body and relax it. Notice the rhythm of your breath while being aware of this powerful connection that you still hold. Let your awareness expand outward and upward, drawing energy from the air that flows over the earth. And in your mind's eye, see the glow of those around you. See their energies. Even though you're nowhere near them, be aware of the energetic connections you have between them, the living things around you, the plants, the animals. Let's sit there for a moment, feeling that oneness and interconnectedness. You share this with Mother Earth and with everything she shelters, just as she shelters you. These are the roots and connections that are always with you. Even after you leave here today, these connections will stay with you. They'll keep you linked to this extraordinary foundation, as well as the entire web of life. And as you breathe out, bring your attention back to your entire body. Center yourself with your breath. See it swirl in your chest. And bring your awareness to its rhythm fully. Now breathe in. And as you breathe out, wiggle your fingers and toes. Let your face relax. Let it smile. And gradually bring yourself back to becoming more aware of the sounds around you, the feelings beneath you and around you, the floor beneath the room, the floor in the room you're in. Let's take a deep breath. Now let it out. Bring your awareness back to your face. And if you have your eyes closed, take a few more breaths. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes. And we'll begin. So what are signs and synchronicities? Well, the actual definition of a sign is something that's material or external that stands for or signifies something. That's all it is. It's nothing mystical. It's nothing unusual. It's everything. Anything and everything that you notice can be a sign. So here's some examples. It can be a feather, a cloud, dog's ears, a flower. It can be a smell. Something you hear, like music or your name being called. Often hearing your name being called is just a way to say pay attention. If you've ever been by yourself and heard your name, it might be a moment that's a sign to pay attention to something around you, something you've just thought of, or even something that's right in front of you. So it's a synchronicity. That's the simultaneous occurrence of events that appear significantly related, but you can't find any reason that they're connected. How many of you have ever been thinking of somebody that you haven't talked to in a long time, maybe even years, only to suddenly see them or have them contact you? Or maybe there's someone you know that mentions them out of the blue, for you're not discussing it or anything, and that's a synchronicity. How about having a symbol you like? I know some people like the spiral. That always seems to show up when you're making a major decision or something is on your mind a lot and you don't know which path to follow. And you're really looking for a way to really give yourself a clue as to, are you following the right path? Everywhere you look is your favorite bird, your favorite symbol, anything. Those are both signs and synchronicities. Spirit, the universe, angels, or whatever higher power you believe in is answering your almost unconscious request for some sort of guidance. So where can you find signs and synchronicities? Where do you look? Well, it's one word, everywhere. On the ground, in the sky, on a billboard even. I've gone by a billboard before thinking about something, and suddenly on the billboard is the sign of do it or go for it or something like that. And right then I know, okay, I hear you, I'm on the right path. A dog staring at you could be a sign to pay attention to something. Or a song you keep hearing on the radio. Even a rainbow in a drop of oil. Anything like that can give you those signs and synchronicities. Anywhere in nature, you've got the woods or a beach. Sometimes people will see sand dollars when they're looking for certain things in life. A friend of mine I know always sees a sand dollar whenever she has a question about finances. And I thought that was really unusual because I know it's typically a Christian symbol to symbolize the resurrection, I believe it is, and the crucifixion. But when she breaks it open and sees the little doves that are in there, it tells her, okay, money's coming. And she says it always works. So sometimes friends and family can help with this. They may be a sign or synchronicity. Thinking about something that someone else talks about. You might suddenly have a conversation with a friend that sparks a knowing in you. And these are your own tuition moments. These are your intuition can tell you a lot of things, whether you want to believe in them or not. A lot of people don't have a confidence in what they're believing. They think, oh, it's just a coincidence. There's no way that could have possibly been meant for me, when actually it is. So have you ever showed up somewhere to get together or at a party, and you see a friend or relative that has the best tasting clothes because you're wearing the same outfit. You've thought alike. For some reason, you both think alike. And at my senior prom, that happened with 5 people. So all of us decided to sit together at a table. We had a great time. And those 5 people, excuse me, were people I'd never met. I was in a big high school. I'd never met them, never interacted with them. And suddenly all 5 of us had the same dress. So we decided to have a lark and sit together. And I had a wonderful time with people I never knew before. So that might be a sign to make some new friends. Maybe look outside of your comfort zone for other people. I'm sorry, what? Oh, well, just like I said, strangers can be part of your life. You can talk to somebody in an elevator. I've made amazing connections and gotten some amazing opportunities by doing that. Susanna is one. Before I went to the church, I never met Susanna before. And now I have an opportunity to speak to people about this. And it's a wonderful opportunity. I appreciate it. I've also made some unbelievable friendships with people who think the same way I do. And I've also met some friends that definitely do not, and have really challenged my sense of self and helped me to be much more introspective about my thoughts, my beliefs, how I view things. Um, it could just be that you need what they're saying right then at that time. So not all signs and synchronicities are for us either. At some point, it might be you've met with this person or seen this because someone else needs it, because there's a message you may need to give to someone else. And that's a way that spirit kind of delivers messages for us. Throughout this, I'm one of the people that believe it's spirit and the universe that sees that. So for talking purposes, I'll probably mention spirit or the universe. So just to let you know. You can also see this in colors. Colors in many traditions have meanings. Red can mean passion. Blue can mean emotions. Green can mean health. Things like this can help you decide if it's talking about a certain aspect of your life. Time, numbers that appear all over the place. There's a wonderful book by Doreen Virtue called Angel Numbers. So if you're constantly seeing the numbers 333, or you constantly wake up at 2:44 a.m. every day, look up those numbers and see what they mean. You can Google it. Google is a great resource, even though it's Google. Make sure you look at several resources to find out exactly what kind of meanings different ones are explaining for you, so that you know what speaks to you the most. And one site might say one thing, another site might say another. So balance that out and see what feels most true to you. An example of that would be the number 555. That could be talking to you about trust or your choices. Trust your choices. A major change is coming your way. You are a divine being, and be open and stay positive. Look at different sources to see what speaks. So what does science say about all of this? For me, I'm a science nerd, like I said before, and I love looking up the science of these things. Science actually has a lot to say. According to the National Institute of Health, interest in spirituality has grown considerably in a variety of scientific and health disciplines, including psychology, medicine, nursing, social work, counseling, sociology, and even organizational management. Pretty much every aspect of the scientific community is interested in the way signs and synchronicities can psychologically and physically impact people. Carl Jung actually coined the word synchronicity. It comes from the Greek synchronos, which means happening at the same time. And even today, studies are being done, particularly in the world of psychology, that suggest that so-called signs and synchronicities can enhance a sense of purpose in people. They encourage personal transformations. They also find that when synchronicities are recognized in personal experience, a correlation with greater subjective well-being happens over and over again, particularly in young adults. Another study found that paying attention to the experiences that people have in a therapeutic session, like with a patient and counselor, can help with a deeper self-awareness. Individuals tend to be more open to the self-reflection and feelings of connectedness when they have these synchronicities, and when psychologists point these synchronicities out. It can even increase the flow states. When people get in a state of flow when they're creating or when they're doing things, they can enhance that and bring mindfulness to a higher level. According to studies by Lydia Denworth, brain waves also tend to synchronize when people interact. For example, studies find that students who are very engaged with their teachers tend to synchronize their brain waves with the teacher. People listening to a musical concert or listening to some sort of musical event tend to match neural waves in very particular regions of the brain. Apparently, more synchronicity means more enjoyment. And for me, this gives a little bit of credence to why Reiki works. If syncing brainwaves helps me as a Reiki master direct energy in a patient, that makes me feel even better. That's a even better use of the synchronicities around me, and that synchronization helps the people that I'm trying to help even more. So if you sync brainwaves, you kind of sync the way you feel. And that's why a lot of times couples will feel very much the same about each other. Scientific theories such as quantum mechanics propose that reality is interconnected and that seemingly random events can exhibit patterns and correlations. This idea aligns with spiritual beliefs that signs and synchronicities reflect a deeper interconnectedness of all things. And scientific research on phenomena like non-locality suggests that information can be transmitted instantaneously across space and time. And this parallels spiritual notions of signs and synchronicities being beyond the limitation of physical distances, similar to the quantum theory of entanglement. Physics suggests there is an inherent interconnectedness in the universe as a whole. They have discovered a web of interconnectedness in the entire universe, filaments of energy that connect everything, literally in a web. The concept of synchronicities aligns with the notions of emergence, where complex systems can result in unexpected and meaningful patterns that are greater than the sum of its parts. Chaos theory also talks about how small butterfly effect changes can suddenly spontaneously create change. There are lots of ways besides scientific studies to find out the meanings and the signs of the synchronicities you encounter. These may not be as concrete or as thoroughly studied as a lot of the scientific studies you find, but they're no less valid or meaningful. Google's a great resource, like I said, believe it or not, but like I said, also be mindful of different meanings from different sites. Make sure you look at a lot of them. You can also consider professionals like psychics. Although the stereotype is a woman gazing to a crystal ball, usually dressed as a gypsy, psychics do use senses other than the normal 5 we know of. They use what's called clairs, such as clairvoyance or spiritual seeing, or claircognizance, which is spiritual knowing. They just know. They don't need information. They just know. And psychics differ from other types of spiritual guides in that they interpret the information they get a lot of times. In order to convey information to another person, they must decipher those images, because from friends of mine who are psychic, what I've heard is they get impressions thrown at them of all these different images, and they have to help those images coalesce into a coherent message. You can use a tarot card reader who's also an intuitive a lot of times, and they can gain insight into your past, your present, and your future by formulating a question and then drawing a card. And depending on what card they draw, they can look into the meanings of the colors in the card, the symbols in the card, that sort of thing. They'll have you ask a question, shuffle a card, and then the cards are laid out in a spread to help you with that. Intuitives in general can also help you with finding out the meaning of what this sign or synchronicity means to you. And has anyone here ever just known that their child or a loved one needed them? That's intuition. Or you've had the phone rung and you just knew who it was that was calling you. That's intuition. We're all intuitive beings. Every one of us has this ability to be intuitive. Psychic work and intuitive work happen much the same way. Intuitive insight usually can't be controlled. They tend to hit people out of the blue. It's like that sudden inspiration. And now there's a bit of explanation from a scientific standpoint. Your subconscious always, constantly gathers information. It collates it and processes it. So that sudden inspiration or insight someone may have been your subconscious in the background learning the codes and understanding how all of the patterns fit together to give you that moment of insight. You can do a session with a spiritual mentor or coach. Susanna, are you you're a spiritual mentor, aren't you? Yeah, I thought so. They help clients find the tools within themselves to answer their own questions. And mentors can help you find your own way. They can guide you in finding that. And a spiritual mentor also has many tools at their disposal to help you delve deeper into your own spiritual journey. So you can help find what those synchronicities mean in your life and how they can help you and what they're trying to tell you. We're born with intuition. We use it in all types of situations without even thinking about it. If you feel your sign or synchronicity means a certain thing, it probably does. The most that you can do is listen to your own intuition by just believing in yourself. You need to trust and honor your intuition when you seek outside help, because sometimes you don't always find the best person to help you with it. And you've got to trust your intuition to know that that's not right. So I'm going to give you a few ways to understand and cope with your own signs and synchronicities, to recognize them and to be able to find them in your own life. The main thing it comes down to is perspective and attitude. So let me give you an example of that. A change in perspective can mean everything. And I don't know how many of y'all remember this. There was a commercial several years ago. It was a little boy. He was out on a field by himself. He had a ball in his hand and a bat. And he would throw the ball up and say, "I'm the best hitter in the world." And he would swing the bat and miss. So he'd throw it again, swing and a miss. He did this for several times. So he finally picked up the ball and looked at it. Now, me, if that had happened, I'd have thrown the ball away and off I'd go. That would just be it for me. I knew I couldn't hit anything. There wasn't any way to save that, no matter how much I practiced. But this little boy looked at the ball, thought about it for a minute, and a grin just lit up his face. It spread everywhere. So he throws up the ball, swings and a miss, and he shouts, "I'm the greatest pitcher in the world." So the fact of the matter is, all your perspective has to do is shift just a little bit, and you can see the things around you, and you can feel the things around you that help guide you through life. And it's the same way when you're trying to interpret a sign or synchronicity. It really depends on your own interpretation. So what do you do now? What are some of the things that you can do to help with your own understandings? Well, the first thing I have for you, and I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute so you can see. I have a notebook that I keep. I just created it myself. It's a little small notebook with pages in it. On one side, I'll put what the sign was. I'll list out what it is. I'll put any description I can think of and any impressions. And on the other side, I will put what the result was. How did it help me? What were the things that I found out about myself? And one of the ones I want to share with you in this is one that happened to me several years ago. I was at work at a place called Waco. It was a manufacturing area. They had two buildings. I had gone to one building and I was coming back to another building. And all of a sudden I looked up and there were dozens of clouds in the sky. And I love clouds, so I started looking up and suddenly I saw an angel with its wings wrapped around two children. And then I saw another one. Then there was another angel kneeling at a graveside with their hands folded in prayer. And I knew something was wrong. My intuition told me something is wrong. And of course, my first thought, two children, my sister and I, my mother has died. So I go running to the building. As I'm running towards the building, my boss is coming out of it. And he says, "You've got to call your mother." So sadly, I was very relieved that it wasn't my mother, but it turned out my uncle had died. And somehow, some way, through some sort of connection that our family has, a synchronicity happened and the signs were in the sky from that. It was up to me to interpret it. It was up to me to notice it. And when I did, I came away with that with a much more profound sense of not only relief, because frankly, it wasn't my mother, but a sense of connectedness beyond what I thought would happen when someone I loved died. And I also realized that the angel's wings around the children were support that my sister and I needed to help my mother through this, because it hit my mother very hard. So there are things that can happen that are bad in our lives and things that are happening that are good. And there are always things that can help you understand those signs and synchronicities and help you look deeper within and find a better connection about everything around you, the people, the lives you touch, because not only are those signs and synchronicities touching you, it's helping you touch others in their lives. So I'd like to end with a couple of things you can do. One is to meditate. If you're into walking meditations, it's always very helpful to have a phone with you to take pictures of what you see. Oftentimes, when you see it in the moment, it's very different than when you see it later. So you can also observe between those two realities what the differences are, and do those differences say anything. When you're doing a spiritual signs and synchronicities journal, ask yourself, how was I feeling right before? What was I thinking? Was there anything on my mind that was bothering me, or was there something I was celebrating? Or is there something I need to tell someone that I haven't? And let those signs and synchronicities guide you throughout all of the things that you do in your life, because they're there to help you and they're there for everybody to see. So thank you. That's what I have. Like I said, I had to cut out a lot because I was very over time. So now I might have cut out too much. I don't know. I hope that you enjoyed that. And are there questions?
Well, thank you, Stephanie. I know that it was exactly what needed to be said and in exactly the right timing, because besides signs and synchronicities, I also believe in divine timing and manner, and that everything happens exactly as it's supposed to, even if it feels like it's horrible. Um,
Yeah.
I had one, I'm glad for the extra time, because the thing that I was curious about as you were talking, and by the way, it was a beautiful talk.
Oh, thank you.
And I loved your examples, especially. But I was just curious, like from those listening, if they had a sign or synchronicity, maybe that you hadn't mentioned, if they had something that they could share with us so we could learn other things we might be looking for.
Please.
I know Tom has 100 stories.
I'll mention one that came to mind, Stephanie, when you were talking. This dates back 18 years ago, and one night when the Aquarium Bookshop in Richmond used to have a store in Willow Lawn, my office is nearby. I stopped by there about 10 after 7 one night on the way home, just with the intention of picking up some incense, some nag champa or something to take home. And I walked in, grabbed the incense, went to the counter, put my money down, and was expecting to be out of there in another 30 seconds. And the store clerk, who was a woman in her 50s or so, said, "Oh my gosh, she says, our best store psychic is here tonight, and her 7 o'clock appointment didn't show up, and you would be doing yourself a huge favor if you took advantage of this rare opportunity." And so I said, "Oh, well, that sounds kind of like a sign from God. Why not?" And so I took it in the same way you're talking about, and I went in, and in the course of the next 45 minutes, she did she gave me quite an impressive array of different modalities through which she could operate. She did a tarot reading. She ran my astrological chart and gave me a quick summary of that. She did a palm reading. She threw rune stones, and she also did some psychic stuff. And I noticed when she was doing psychic stuff, she was using her thumbs and fingers for some kinesiology work. And so I'd ask a question. She said, "Well, my guys, GUYS, my guys are telling me this or they're telling me that." And so I intuited that there was some level of channeling going on, and I decided that was of interest. And so I came back the following week, and she says, "Well, what brought you back?" And I said, "Well, I was interested in your channeling." She said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't do any channeling."
Mhm.
And so she, I said, "Well, it seemed like that's what you were doing to me." And she said, "What do you mean?" And I repeated what I just said, and she said, "Well, I'm just consulting." And I said, "Well, who is it you think you're consulting with?" And she said, "Well, I guess my spirit guides." And I said, "I don't think so." And she said, then she looked a little askance at me and says, "Well, what do you mean have the nerve to ask me, whether they're my spirit guides?" Saying they're not. And I said, "Well, because I've been working with my own spirit guides since I was a child, and they do a really wonderful job of looking at it for me, but they're not, they're not, their job is what these people or these guys you're getting are doing is beyond the usual pay grade of spirit guides, in my opinion." And so I said, she says, well, maybe, I don't know. And I said, "So do you mind if I ask who they are?" And he said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I wish you would." And I said, "Oh, that's a surprise. Why is that?" And she says, "Well, since you were in last week, I was meditating on Sunday and having an internal dialogue with them, and I asked them if they were." I don't know. She says, "I don't know why I was prompted to ask, but I asked if they were associated with the light, and I got a no response, and I've been worried ever since that they might be some dark force." And I said, I don't pick up anything like that at all. What you probably were not aware of, that you were posing the light as a positive polarity. And if you're dealing with a soul group that has transcended all polarities, then they would have given you the correct answer and simply begged you to ask more questions. And she's got her hands working like this and so forth. Because yeah, they're telling me that's exactly why they gave me the answer they did. And and so um, I said, "Well, having established that, um, can I ask them about your channeling?" And she says they're not my spirit guides too. They're telling me that you're right about that, and that they are a much higher group than my spirit guides would be. And I said, "Well, can you ask them about your channeling?" And this is why I really told the story. She said, "Yeah, they're telling me you're right about that too, and that you showed up right on schedule." I said,
Wow.
"Oh wow, what is the schedule that I don't know about?" And then she says, "They're telling me that you and I and they have a pre-incarnate soul agreement for a long-term project together, and that they're to work with us, and with your help and their help, I am to learn how to channel in a more direct way."
Oh,
And
wow.
and and so I said, "Well, great. Why in the world was it that I was so blessed as to be chosen for this, or for that matter, you either?" She says, "They're telling me that a long time ago and far, far away, our roles were reversed with theirs, and this is what we did for them." I said,
Hmm.
"Well, that's pretty cool." So
Wonderful.
all this arose from a sign, and which I took as a synchronicity. And and that was in late 2005, and we're still meeting every week ever since then. In fact, in September 2014, they informed us at the end of a session in that month that, by the way, you have now completed everything you signed up to do in your pre-incarnate soul agreement. We're perfectly willing to go forward if you want to continue, but we want each of you to make up your own mind, over the next week, and let us know. And even if you decide not to continue, you can do so knowing full well that you've fully satisfied everything you agreed to do.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So it's been a wonderful experience, and we've continued it.
I'll bet. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's just again comes from a sign and synchronicity,
Absolutely.
So
You were
thank
there
you for
at
your
that
time.
moment. Oh, no
Right.
problem.
Right.
Right there at that moment.
Yeah.
Like Susanna was saying, it comes at the right time.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. It's supposed to.
Oh,
Yes.
and my only signal was I thought I was out of Nag Champa and wanted to buy a box on the way home. And here it turned into one of the most important projects of my life, perhaps the most important.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow. Hmm.
Well, I'd love to hear if other people have any stories or questions, but in the meantime, I want to share my own sign. And some of you know about my story about my spiritual awakening, which happened about 5.5 years ago, when I learned about my husband's stage 4 cancer right after coming back from my sister's funeral. And we were living in Athens, Georgia at the time, and we'd been there about 1.5 years. And every night my husband would draw my bubble bath for me. But when he got too sick, I started to draw it myself. And I want to share with you what I saw in my bathtub every night.
wow.
Oh my goodness.
Spiral.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
You took moving pictures of it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Every night. And some nights there were more than one spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like,
Such a wonderful
I
sign.
started really to wonder, wow, is this spirit thing real?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was just so beautiful.
Well, at that time, Susanna, you were probably saying, "Is this spirit stuff for real?" Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a total atheist, and I
Right.
was that as hardcore,
Right.
concrete, science can explain everything
Right.
mindset. I mean, it took me years to get out of that, but I mean, there was just so many signs, and that was
Yeah.
just like one of the most striking ones. And I mean, I felt guided to focus on helping my husband heal, and about the time he had really a turnaround, the spirals went away.
Hmm.
Like they just didn't keep happening in my tub after that.
Yeah, and spirals are such a symbol of the connectivity with spirit. It's amazing. And the journey within as well. So
Yeah. Anybody
I can
else?
Yeah, I
Andrea.
can share. It's silly, but so I like to play this game. It's a dress up game for like paper dolls, but it's on an app. And every month you get a new hair accessory. So like a crown or something that you can use to dress up your dolls in the different competitions. It's really fun if you like fashion. Anyway, so I played this game. I've been playing this game for years. This actually happened a few years ago. But one night I had gone to a mediumship practice circle and connected with this entity who presented himself as, think of like Beauty and the Beast, with these horns, and he wasn't a he was more of a darker entity, but he was there kind of to help somebody else, whatever. Anyway, I shared my message with the guy in the circle. The guy, who the message was for, he knew who I was talking about when I described the entity, he knew, like, anyway, so all of that made sense to the guy. But, as I thought about it later on the night and then the next morning, I'm like, maybe I'm just making this up. I'm just making this up, these type of things, maybe it doesn't really exist. So, and then anyway, I remembered I was at work. I got to work that morning. I'm like, oh, it's the first of the month. Let me check my new hair accessory. And what do you know? It was a pair of horns.
Oh, wow.
He had, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so for me that was a sign, like, okay, don't doubt, even though you don't have like physical proof of what was going on the night before with this entity that kind of just showed up. But just it happened. Get over it. They're the horns. There's your synchronicity. So that's kind of like my little fun synchronicity.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hi guys, I'm Deb. I don't know
Hey.
any of you. I stumbled upon you guys on Meetup, so I don't know how many of you know each other, but I was just looking for people that were interested in similar things, right? But I had a really good sign. My mom passed away in 2020, and due to COVID, we weren't able to do a memorial for like a year, right? So so a year later, we got together, my siblings and I, and we did a burial by sea. So we put her ashes in a biodegradable urn and went out to sea off the coast of Florida. My mom and I had this inside joke for many, many years, this inside thing about ladybugs. And so here we are, and we put the ashes, like in the water, and the boat turns around. And some of us laid flowers down, and we turn around, and well, first this dolphin, like right when we got back to where the flowers were, comes diving out of the water and swimming next to the boat next to us, and we're all like, "Oh my God, hi mom!" And then we're all very emotional about it. And then I go back down to sit in the boat, and then my sister comes down, and she's just like, "There's something on your face." I mean, we're out to sea, right? And I was like, "What is on my face? And why are you so calm?" She goes, "Oh my God, there's a ladybug sitting on your cheek." And I'm like, we're in the middle of the ocean. How is there a ladybug sitting on my cheek, And I was like, and then even my nieces and nephews, all who knew that I had this running thing with my mom, they're like, it's grandma, So I totally believe in all those kinds of signs. She still comes to visit me as a ladybug, yeah.
My sister-in-law had a moment like that. In the middle of January, their grandmother died, and her grandmother loves flowers, planted flowers and everything, but it was the middle of July, of course. And January, I'm so sorry, middle of January, snow's on the ground, everything. She goes outside to smoke a cigarette, and she's thinking about her grandma, and she's kind of talking to her a little bit, and she looks down, and there is a single red rose peeking up through the snow. And her grandmother's favorite flower was a red rose. So she knew that her grandmother had told her, "Hey, I'm fine. I'll see y'all later. I'm out of here." So,
yeah.
And you hear all the time about people that, especially at funerals, a butterfly comes and lands on them. And in a lot of folklore, a butterfly is a sign of spirit. So there's a lot of those that happen.
Yeah. What was the name of the church that you said you guys all met at?
It's called First. Wait a minute, Suzanne. What's the name?
First Unitarian Universalist. It's by Bird Park.
It's on Blanton Avenue, right?
Yeah, and Steph heads up the Dogwood Spirit Circle, so earth and pagan type community subgroup in the UU.
Okay.
But we also have this every first Wednesday of the month, usually on the first Wednesday. And then this Saturday we have the Ions Talk, and we gather in person, have a speaker on the science of spirituality, and a potluck. So it's really another great way to meet people. So we can share some information about that if you're interested. And
Yeah, I saw that come. I saw that come through. I'm actually traveling this weekend, but yeah, no, definitely in the future.
Yeah, it's the third Saturday. Yeah, welcome, Deb. Good to have you.
It's funny because like I just moved to Virginia this year, so like in April, And then I work remote. So, and then when I was like, oh, I meet up to meet people, and then it's a Zoom call, and I'm like, oh man, I don't think I'm going to do this because I don't want to be on a computer with people. That's what I do all day. And so I was like, I need to find some groups that actually meet in person. So that's why, but I'm glad I listened to my intuition and joined. So very nice.
Welcome, Deb.
Thank you.
Yeah, join us next month at the Ions meeting. I mean, it's really fun. It's a wonderful group of people.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
and we'll meet you in
And-
person.
Yeah.
By the way, our IONS programs, I think these are too, are recorded. And
Mhm.
so
Yes.
if you miss one, you can go on to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page and pick up a recording of it. Or you can join on Zoom if you're not physically present. So,
Yeah, and speaking of YouTube, so one of our first speakers for this series is Gary Goldberg, and he talks about one of his favorite topics is panpsychism, which is
Oh,
this I guess it's a term relating to the theory that the universe is conscious, that everything is conscious, everything is consciousness.
mhm.
And so
guess what? That's not a theory.
well, it
That's
is
reality.
well, to physicists, it's a theory. And you know, when you think about it, how the signs and synchronicities, you just think, wow, what a sweet universe we live in, right? Like the signs are so sweet and loving. It just makes it so beautiful, really.
It's
Yeah.
always some form of support or help, and that's what I.
Yes. Yes, it's always kind and wise.
Mhm. And I love how science is catching up with us.
I know, and then they say they discovered it.
Yeah, exactly. 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, we kind of were already, but that's okay.
Andrea, have you ever been to our IONS meeting?
A couple of times, but it's been pre-pandemic.
Okay, well, we're still there.
Yeah,
We're in a different location than we were before the pandemic. But are you on our list?
I don't know.
Well, if
Well, go
anybody
on
wants to be
Meetup,
added
go
to the
on
mailing
Meetup
list, huh?
and come on. We have this weekend. We have PMH Atwater, who's the world's most published author on near-death experiences. She's written 19 books on the subject.
That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mhm.
Saturday at 10.
Live. I mean,
This
in
Saturday
person?
from 10 to noon at the River Road United Methodist Church.
Yeah,
Yeah,
third Saturday of the month.
near-death experiences are actually quite fascinating. This
Mhm.
whole idea of kind of being out of the body,
Right.
outside of the physical body,
Right.
consciousness being outside of the physical body is really fascinating to me. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Well, Atwater is really wonderful. I've known her for 30 some years, and she really is a wonderful. She's had 3 NDEs herself, and he got interested in it back in the 70s because of that,
Yeah.
researching and writing. So
Wow.
no more, no better authority on the subject than she is.
Any other signs or synchronicities from anybody or questions for Steph?
No, I see them all the time as well, though. Like, it's kind of cool. Either in numbers, usually numbers. Like when you said 555, that used to be my number all the time. I used to see it all the time.
We had an ION speaker several years ago named Susie Wasaki, whose daughter was diagnosed at age 16 with a stage 4 colon cancer. Quite unusual, people that have colon cancers at that age. And she died on her 18th birthday, the very same day she graduated from high school.
Wow.
And but after she passed away, for the following year and a half, 2 years, Susie was bombarded with signs on license plates and on cars in front of her at stoplights and on billboards, everything you were just talking about, Steph.
Mm-hmm.
And it was absolutely, she actually wrote a book about it. So 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 complete. And then the culmination of it all was about a year and a half after her daughter's passing, as I recall. It could be off, could have been 6 months, but in any event, she got a call from a woman who was a total stranger to her, who had with whom her daughter had been communicating for several months. Her daughter was the woman did not know her daughter, nor did the woman know that she was a psychic or channel or medium or anything else. She was a social worker in the city. And all of a sudden, her daughter started coming through, and she started writing down all the things that were being said, and then was eventually given the contact information for the mother by the daughter, and contacted the mother to share what she had received. Really, really
Oh,
wonderful
wow.
story. Yeah,
That's wild. That's amazing.
yeah. So,
Oh.
so yeah, these things are quite real.
Mm. It always catches me by surprise. I'm not sure why it does, but it always does. And I think it's because even though I'm looking for the sign or synchronicity to come to me, I always have a feeling like, well, why would they bother? You know, and we've really got to change our attitudes that we're not worth it, because we are. And
Yeah,
we really do deserve what they are trying to help us with.
right. Exactly.
It's amazing.
Well, it's kind of like, if your cat is meowing at you or something like that, you don't go, gosh, I don't think I deserve to get a message from my cat, right? Right? I mean, the universe just communicates.
Right.
And I think it feels to me like more a question of like, are we listening? Are we noticing? And actually I had a question about that for you, Steph. Because I think I mentioned I was a pretty diehard atheist and this is all there is. And I'm not sure, like I'm intuitive, I'm clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient, but I'm not sure I really pay attention to the signs as often as I might. And so what do you recommend just in general, to be more open to signs? Do you suggest we just slow down more or take time out and just sit and observe? I mean, what kind of practices would you adopt?
Well, I think we can always benefit from slowing down more. All of us lead such busy, busy lives. I know I do. I think for me, the things that have helped me the most have been to deliberately take time in nature. Walk through a park or sit at a lake or a waterfall or some kind of running water. For some reason, running water seems to inspire me more than just a small body of still water. And there are other times when the still water does it. It's no rhyme or reason as far as I can find out. But just to be cognizant of the fact that you have to take time for it. Maybe incorporate into your day, maybe a little, like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening before bed, to take a moment and just breathe and feel what's around you or see what's around you. There's a practice that I do where I will stand on the front porch sometimes and feel the air around me, and then I will let my energy or my consciousness feel like it's expanding. When I took martial arts, it was called blindfold training, where you would actually blindfold yourself, or the teacher would, and you would have to be able to defend yourself from people attacking from all sides. And you would be surprised at how much blocking one sense can make other senses so much more strong, because it got to a point where you could feel the energy of the person coming toward you. It wasn't air and it wasn't a sound. It was actually this push of energy towards you. So I will sometimes, every now and then, take a moment to sit blindfold or with my eyes closed to see what I feel other than see. Because I know that when we were out on a training field one time, when the Grand Master of the martial art king. I had never met him before. I didn't know him. And I was talking with my sensei, we were just having a conversation. And all of a sudden, it was like this huge wind just pushed against me. And I was like, what is that? And I turn around and there he is right there. He had this energy that just expanded so far from him. It was like a strong wind going through the crowd. And then later, he was signing autographs, and I kind of braced myself to sit beside him because he kept getting everybody to sit with him, and it was gone. It was completely gone, and it was almost this feeling of cool water just moving over you. And that type of energy is hard to feel when we're running around with everything else. You have to really be quiet and listen. So maybe take time every day to take a moment to be quiet.
Well,
I've also heard that, right, just like meditating, that questions and answers are usually two different vibrations, right? Two different energies. So when you ask questions, you have to get out of the asking and allow the answer to come in, right? So you have to be in a different
And a lot of
frequency.
times you can do that before you sleep at night. I won't say, what do I do about this? Or how can I change that? I'll say something like, tonight I'm going to let my mind drift off and think about ways I can do XYZ. And your mind in the process, while you're asleep, the subconscious is working in the background to give you that answer. And then the next day you look for a sign or a synchronicity or even an insight that suddenly comes to you. And that works a lot more than people think it does. So that's an option that you can have for that.
I can share something, a couple of things. I've asked, like sometimes when I feel like I'm quote unquote out of the flow, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't had any synchronicities recently. Spirit, universe, powerful synchronicities, bring them. And then I just try to be open after that, to see what comes. But also I found journaling is really helpful. I used to, I don't do it anymore. Write in my synchronicity journal, and I would write what happened and like my surprise or excitement. I'm like, oh my gosh, and this must mean this or whatever. And then I'd always end it with a thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful. And going back and reading those different stories, because it puts in your mind that, oh wow, yeah, that really did happen. Oh my goodness. And yeah, I really did get these type of synchronicities, and that really did make sense. And so I feel like that kind of opens you up, perhaps on the more subconscious level, even more to receive more because you're becoming more open.
Yeah.
So I found those things have worked for me.
Yeah, and setting that intention to begin with. A lot of times I'll wake up and say, today I'm going to be aware of anything that spirit wants to tell me, anything the universe wants to bring to me. I will recognize it and I will acknowledge it. And just that mindset, a lot of times, just that putting it out there will help me. So
I like that. Great. Any other thoughts or questions or examples? Okay, well, I just wanted to spend a moment just sharing with you what's coming up next month. I think it's a related topic. It's going to be Sarah Norton, who's a depth psychologist. Which is, on the Jungian and archetypal studies. She's a certified dream group facilitator, scholar, and she also works with me at the foundation. She's going to be talking about dreaming with Earth, how dream images connect, expand, and hold us in times of uncertainty. She's such an interesting person. So I hope you will join us on October the 4th at 7 p.m. And I also am just putting some information in the chat about our first round of community classes on intuition development. So it's 6 weeks, one 90-minute class per week, starting October 10th for clairaudience, starting January 9th for clairvoyance, and starting February 26th 7th for Claire Empathy. And we're asking for a special community pilot rate of $125 for each 6-week class. And so I hope if you're interested, please just email me. And we can get you set up. I'm just going to put some quotes from our first pilot that we did internally on the screen share. We just got some really great responses from it, even from experienced intuitives. So I'm really proud of it, and feel like what's really needed in our world today is to help us make greater sense of what's going on and how to move forward, because I have just given up on trying to understand all of the factors involved in even a simple decision. And so we can deepen our relationship with the divine, with spirit, and communicate in other ways as well as signs and synchronicity. So I hope you'll consider joining us. Just email me if you wish. It's Tuesdays 7 to 8:30 p.m.
Is that's an online, like a Zoom call?
I think what we'll do is we'll start on Zoom, and then if there's enough people who would like to do a hybrid or whatever, we can gather. And I've actually had some people offer space, so we could actually do a Zoom hybrid setup somewhere. So I think that would be fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Steph, for what a really sweet talk, and the opportunity for us to get to know each other. It was a wonderful topic for discussion. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. And again, I hope you'll consider supporting our program and sending a donation to sanctuaryoferarth.org. And hope to see you Saturday and/or next month.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you guys so much. It was nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Deb. Have a good
Bye, y'all.
Good to see you, Andrea. Bye.
Good to see you too, Suzanne. Bye.
Thanks, Jennifer, wherever you are.